Hi, this is Jiwon Lee, and I'm your attorney. On March 23rd, a man named Kim Tae-hyun was accused of killing a woman he stalked, her mother, and younger sister at their home in Seoul, Korea. He claimed that he got to know the woman through an online game and that he committed the murders out of a grudge because she refused to meet him. The police suspect that he had followed her for months before he killed him and are investigating the case. Because the crime is so severe, the public is wondering what sentence he will get. For this type of capital crime, there is an endless debate surrounding the issue of whether the criminal should get the death penalty or not. And there is a follow-up discussion of whether Korea should continue or stop capital punishment as well. How much do you know about the death penalty system in Korea? Before we get into the details, let me briefly explain the death penalty system in different countries. According to research from 2019, 56 countries retained their death penalty laws and carried out executions. In Korea, under Article 41 of the Criminal Act, capital punishment is stated as the maximum penalty allowable by law. However, there has been no execution ever since the execution of 23 inmates on December 20th, 1997. Therefore, South Korea is automatically categorized as a country that has abolished the death penalty by Amnesty International due to not having executed a criminal for more than 10 years. South Korea currently has a total of 61 people on death row. Some of these detainees are vicious criminals whose acts horrified society. One of them is Yoo Young-chul, who got arrested in 2004 after brutally killing 20 elderly people and women. The suspension of execution was started by Kim Dae-jung, the former president of the Republic of Korea. Since he had always emphasized human rights, he didn't approve of execution during his reign. And that continued for diplomatic reasons. Under Article 2 of the European Convention on Human Rights, no one should be sentenced to death or be subject to execution. Therefore, the EU doesn't conclude free trade agreement with countries that prescribe capital punishment. To be able to enter into the treaty in 2007, the Ministry of Justice of Korea discussed the matter with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and decided not to execute even if the criminals were sentenced to death. There are various opinions about this somewhat ambiguous death penalty system. The supporters say capital punishment actualizes justice for victims and it mainly helps with crime prevention. However, the objectors criticize the possibilities of misjudgment which can lead to the irreparable death of innocent people. Despite such a high opposition rate, in 2020, the Korean government agreed to the resolution moratorium on the use of death penalty at the UN General Assembly. This is the first time Korea ever agreed to pass that resolution. It doesn't mean Korea should immediately abolish the death penalty system, but it clearly shows that the country is one step closer to it. As an attorney, the dilemma I face in the field is that, though we always fight hard in court to bring justice, none of the subjects of the trial, even the legal experts such as the judge, prosecutor, and attorney, can guarantee that the substantial truth is always found. In other words, no one can be 100% sure about their judgment, thus there's always a possibility of misjudgment. Compared to the possibility of misjudgment, the result of execution is irreversible. Of course, we cannot ignore the deterrent effect on crime and other influences of the death penalty, so we should take a careful approach towards this issue. Before we claim whether the death penalty system should be maintained or not, we should ask ourselves the fundamental function of it and how it affects society. What is your opinion about the death penalty in general? Do you think it's practical or it should be abolished? You are always welcome to comment down below and share your thoughts. Again, this is your attorney, Jiwon Lee. Thanks for watching.